Lyran had always believed he was very good at two things: running away from trouble, and pretending he was not running away from trouble. Unfortunately, both skills failed him at the exact same moment. His ship spun wildly past bright red warning markers floating in space. Forbidden orbital space. Turn back or face consequences. In my defense, Lyran muttered, gripping the controls, I was not planning to be here. Behind him, two bounty ships fired warning shots. One of the bounty hunters screamed over comms. You stole my hover goat. I did not steal it. Lyran yelled back. It followed me voluntarily. The goat had looked emotionally unstable anyway. But before he could argue more, the stars around him bent. Gravity tightened. His ship froze in space. Bands of shimmering energy wrapped around his hull. Celesta sentinels. Ancient alien guardians. Oh, Lyran whispered. That's worse. His ship was dragged toward a glowing blue planet that shimmered like crushed diamonds. Below him rose a palace made of dark crystal towers twisting into the sky like claws reaching for the stars. He barely had time to fix his hair in the reflection of his console. Then the ship doors were ripped open. Armored alien guards pulled him out. They marched him across smooth black floors that hummed with energy older than human history. He tried smiling. No one smiled back. That was usually a bad sign. At the far end of the throne hall sat the ruler of this world. Queen Zelene. Tall. White-skinned. Long-eared. Midnight black hair flowing like living shadow. Her eyes carried the calm of someone who had never been wrong in her entire life. Lyran swallowed. She stood. The throne itself seemed to tremble when she moved. Lyran of terror, she said. Her voice echoed in layered harmonics, like several tones speaking at once. You have violated sacred Celesta boundaries. Lyran opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He cleared his throat. In my defense, Your Radiant Majesty, my navigation system glitched. Also gravity pulled weird. And there was a goat situation. The guards did not blink. The Queen raised a blade made of cold nebula light. Your crimes require no explanation. The blade lifted higher. Lyran began thinking about his life choices. He wished he had eaten breakfast. He wished he had returned that library datapad. He wished he had never bragged. Nobody scares me except tax officers. The blade shimmered above him. The hall grew silent. Even the glowing crystals dimmed. And then, Mother, stop. A voice cut through the air like sunlight breaking storm clouds. From the balcony above, a golden-haired figure ran forward. Princess HFY. She leaped down the steps without hesitation. She placed herself between Lyran and the blade. Arms out. Shielding him. He is my love. Silence fell so heavily that Lyran felt it press against his ears. The Queen froze mid-strike. Her expression did not simply change. It cracked. Lyran blinked. He looked at the princess. You're what now? She did not look at him. My love, she repeated firmly. Lyran whispered, I feel like this conversation skipped several important steps. The hall erupted in murmurs. One guard fainted. Another began taking notes. The Queen slowly lowered the blade. HFY, she said carefully. You will explain this. The princess lifted her chin. For 6 months, I have visited the colony moons in disguise. I met him there. I chose him. Lyran nodded weakly. To be fair, she did beat me at hollow chess every time. That should have been suspicious. The Queen closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, they burned not with rage, but disbelief. You claim love with an outsider? She asked. A smuggler. HFY's voice softened. I claim truth. Lyran slowly raised a trembling hand. Your Majesty, this is the first time someone has declared their love for me while I was being sentenced to death. So this is all very new. No one laughed. But something flickered in the Queen's gaze. And in that moment, the fate of an empire shifted. The secret passage. Instead of prison, Lyran was dragged through a hidden corridor by the princess herself. The walls glowed faintly. The palace floor shifted slightly as if alive. Just to clarify, Lyran whispered, trying not to trip, do I get a vote in this love situation? You are alive, HFY replied gently. That is improvement. He sighed. Fair. They entered a chamber filled with floating star maps. Alien council members turned toward them. The Queen demands judgment, one councillor said. Diplomatic consequences must be determined. Lyran waved awkwardly. If it helps, I'm very diplomatic. Ask anyone who chased me. Silence. One councillor blinked twice. Lyran decided that counted as progress. HFY stepped forward. My mother is reconsidering the law. Gasps filled the room. The Queen does not reconsider, a councillor replied sharply. She recalibrates, HFY corrected. Lyran leaned closer. Is that better? She hesitated. No. The debate grew louder. Lyran heard words like prophecy, instability, outsider contamination. That last one sounded unhealthy. Soon they were summoned again. This time. To the Hall of Echoes. The Hall of Echoes. The chamber was enormous. Columns of light rose from floor to ceiling. Inside each beam, faint memories moved. Ancient rulers. Battles. Decisions. Mistakes. Queen Zelene stood at the center. Still. Controlled. HFY, she said quietly, you risk destabilizing the Empire. I risk losing myself, the princess replied. The silence felt heavy. Lyran stepped forward. For what it's worth. I don't want to damage your empire. I don't even want to damage your carpets. They look expensive. A small sound escaped the Queen. Almost a laugh. She quickly suppressed it. This is larger than affection, she said. Larger than defiance. Larger than prophecy. Lyran froze. There's a prophecy. No one answered him. The Queen studied her daughter. For the first time. She looked uncertain. Finally she spoke. The outsider may face the nebula labyrinth. Lyran's stomach dropped. That sounds dangerous. It is, HFY whispered. The nebula labyrinth. The labyrinth stretched like a storm made of stars. Violet fog. Lightning singing in strange musical tones. Floating crystal shards drifting like slow knives. Lyran stood in a small Celesta skiff. HFY stood beside him. This reveals your true heart, she said softly. Oh good, Lyran muttered. I was worried it might be relaxing. The skiff moved forward. Lightning twisted into shapes. Memories formed. Fear became visible. Lyran saw the hover goat wearing a crown. That's not fair, he groaned. Then the vision changed. He saw himself alone. Floating in empty space. HFY fading away into light. His chest tightened painfully. That fear was real. The storm grew violent. A gravitational vortex opened ahead. Lyran grabbed the controls. Hold on. He dove straight into the spiral. The ship shook violently. Energy slammed against them. HFY steadied the stabilizers. Together they forced the skiff through. And then, stillness. At the center floated a mirror-like sphere. It reflected not faces, but truth. Lyran stepped closer. He saw himself. Not running. Not joking. Standing steady. Holding HFY's hand. Facing the unknown future without fear. The sphere glowed brighter. It accepts you, HFY whispered. Lyran blinked. Are you sure it's not glitching? She smiled. It is not. Judgment. They emerged from the storm. Queen Zelene waited. Her expression unreadable. The labyrinth judged you, she said. And you did not break. Lyran swallowed. I almost did. But you did not, she replied. She stepped closer. Lyran of terror, you are reckless. Unpredictable. Inconvenient. Thank you, he said automatically. But you are also sincere. Loyal. And willing to grow. She extended her hand. Lyran stared at it for 3 full seconds. Then he took it. The palace lights brightened. The crystal floors hummed. Welcome, Queen Zelene declared, as recognized ally of Celestara. Avery stepped beside him, her fingers intertwined with his. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," he corrected softly. "A new law." Later, in the throne hall, the Queen addressed her council. "Bloodline alone does not define strength," she said. "Trust does." New diplomatic laws were formed. For the first time in Celestara's history, an outsider was accepted not by birth, but by heart. Lyran stood beside Avery as murmurs filled the chamber. He was no longer kneeling, no longer running. He had faced death, faced fear, faced himself, and stayed. As he walked through the living palace beside the princess, the walls shifted into calm patterns. The empire was changing, and so was he. He glanced at her. "So, about this love thing." She raised an eyebrow playfully. "Yes." "Next time," he said, "maybe warn me before announcing it in front of an execution blade." She laughed, bright as starlight. "Next time," she replied, "try not to trespass into sacred orbital space." "No promises," he said. Above them, ancient constellations shimmered. A smuggler. A princess. A queen who learned to bend without breaking. And somewhere far away, a hover goat still demanded justice. But for now, peace settled over Celestara. And Lyran, for the first time in his life, stopped running. The silence after acceptance. Lyran thought surviving execution was stressful. He was wrong. Surviving acceptance was worse. The palace was quiet. Too quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Watching quiet. The kind of quiet that happens before storms. He stood on a balcony beside Princess Avery, staring at the endless blue glow of Celestara's sky. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked softly. "Yes," Lyran replied. "Everyone wants to see if I explode." She almost smiled. "Not explode. Fail." He nodded. That sounded more accurate. Across the capital city, crystal towers shimmered like frozen lightning. Airships moved in smooth arcs. But beneath that beauty, tension spread like cracks in glass. An outsider had been accepted. A human. A smuggler. An unpredictable creature from a short-lived species. And many did not like it. The first challenge. The challenge came sooner than expected. The High Council requested an emergency assembly. That was never good news. Lyran stood beside Avery in the Grand Conclave chamber. Hundreds of nobles and military leaders filled the floating platforms around them. At the center stood Queen Zelene. Composed. Controlled. But Lyran noticed something new in her posture. "Wait. State your concern," the Queen commanded. A tall commander stepped forward. Silver armor. Eyes cold as distant moons. "Your Majesty," he said, "neighboring systems question your decision." Murmurs spread. They believe Celestara has weakened. They believe you are ruled by emotion. Lyran leaned slightly toward Avery. "That seems rude." She whispered back, "It is." The commander continued. "The Varkesh Dominion has mobilized fleets along our border." The chamber froze. Even Lyran felt that one. War fleets. Because of him. The Queen's voice did not shake. "They mobilize often." "This time," the commander replied, "they request demonstration of strength. Or they will test it." That meant invasion. Slowly, several council members turned their gaze toward Lyran. The human symbol. The weakness. Or the strength. Lyran swallowed. He hated being symbolic. Private confrontation. Later that night, Lyran found himself face-to-face with Commander Rail, the silver-armored officer from the council. They stood in a training arena lit by soft blue crystal light. "You are the reason they move," Rail said calmly. "Possibly," Lyran admitted. "That does not make me happy either." Rail studied him carefully. "You smile in serious moments." "It helps," Lyran replied. "Otherwise I panic." A pause. "You do not understand what this empire has survived," Rail continued. "We endured wars that lasted centuries." "I believe you," Lyran said. "Humans are good at war too. We just survive shorter ones. Rail frowned slightly. You speak lightly of danger. No, Lyran said quietly. I speak lightly because danger is heavy. That answer made Rail pause. For the first time, the commander looked uncertain. If war comes, Rail said finally, what would you do, human? Lyran thought about it. Then he answered honestly, I would stop running. The enemy arrives. 3 days later, the Varkesh Dominion fleet appeared. Black warships emerged from hyperspace like blades tearing open reality. Massive. Angular. Cold. They positioned themselves just beyond Celestara's defense line. A single transmission came through. On the main screen appeared a towering alien figure with dark metallic skin and glowing red eyes. Queen Zelene, the being said. Your alliance with a lesser species shows weakness. Lyran muttered, that's unfriendly. The alien continued. Demonstrate your strength. Or we will. The transmission ended. Silence filled the war chamber. Avery looked at Lyran. He looked back at her. Well, he said softly, this escalated quickly. The human suggestion. Military leaders began planning immediate retaliation. Fleet mobilization. Defense formations. Energy shield expansion. It was impressive. And predictable. Lyran watched for a few minutes. Then he raised his hand. No one noticed. He raised it higher. Still nothing. Finally he cleared his throat loudly. Excuse me. Every alien in the room turned. He swallowed. May I suggest something very human? The Queen gave a slight nod. Proceed. Lyran walked toward the star map projection. He zoomed out. Far out. Beyond Celestara. Beyond Varkesh space. You are thinking in straight lines, he said. Borders. Power. Direct force. That is how war works, Rail replied. Lyran shook his head. That's how obvious war works. He pointed to unstable asteroid clusters between the two territories. These fields are unstable, right? Yes, Rail confirmed. Dangerous to navigate. Lyran smiled slightly. Good. The plan. Lyran's plan was simple. Not powerful. Not dramatic. Confusing. He proposed sending small, fast Celestran ships through the unstable asteroid fields. Not to attack. To leave energy beacons. Signals that mimicked fleet signatures. False fleet signatures. Hundreds of them. To Varkesh scanners, it would appear that Celestara had ships hidden everywhere. Invisible. Waiting. Humans call this psychological warfare, Lyran explained. You make your enemy fight ghosts. Rail crossed his arms. This could fail. Yes, Lyran said honestly. But if we attack directly, many will die. Silence. Queen Zelene studied the projection carefully. You suggest fear instead of force. Yes. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. Fear can be powerful. Lyran nodded. Trust me. Humans are very experienced with fear. After a long pause, Zelene gave the order. Proceed. Into the asteroid storm. Lyran insisted on joining the mission. Avery refused to let him go alone. Commander Rail reluctantly joined as well. The small strike team entered the unstable asteroid zone. Massive rocks drifted in chaotic motion. Electric storms crackled between fragments. One wrong move would destroy them. This is extremely unsafe, Rail said. Yes, Lyran agreed. But creatively unsafe. They deployed beacon after beacon. Each one activated with a flash. From the Varkesh perspective, fleets began appearing in impossible places. Behind them. Beside them. Above them. Rail watched the sensor readings. They are repositioning, he said. Confusion detected. Lyran grinned. Good. Let's increase the drama. He triggered the final beacon cluster. The asteroid field lit up like a silent explosion of ghost ships. The turning point. Back on Celestara, the Varkesh fleet shifted formation. They hesitated. They scanned again. More fleet signals. Impossible numbers. Their formation broke slightly. That was all Zelene needed. She transmitted one final message. To the Varkesh Dominion, she said calmly. You sought demonstration of strength. The asteroid field behind them glowed brighter. You are surrounded. Silence followed. Long, heavy silence. Then, the Varkesh fleet began retreat procedures. Slowly at first. Then faster. Within minutes, they jumped to hyperspace. Gone. The war that almost began. Ended without a single shot. Aftermath. Back at the palace, the mood was different. Not fearful. Not uncertain. Proud. Commander Rail approached Lyran privately. You avoided bloodshed, he said. Yes. You risked your life in unstable space. Yes. You did not run. Lyran hesitated. No. Rail extended his arm in formal Celestran respect. Lyran blinked. Then copied the gesture awkwardly. It felt important. The Queen's truth. Later, in the throne hall, Queen Zelene summoned Lyran alone. He approached carefully. Your Majesty. She stood near the star crystal window. You understand something many rulers forget, she said. Power is not only strength. Lyran nodded slowly. My species learned that the hard way. She studied him. When Averai chose you, I feared emotion clouded judgment. And now, he asked gently, now I see clarity. She paused. You did not prove humans are strong today. Lyran blinked. I didn't. You proved you are adaptable. A faint, rare smile touched her lips. That is more dangerous. Quiet moment. That night, Lyran stood again on the balcony with Averai. The city lights shimmered peacefully. You saved thousands, she whispered. We did, he corrected. She smiled. You stopped running. He looked at the stars. For the first time. I didn't want to. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Celestara is changing. Yes. And so are you. He thought about that. Maybe he was. Maybe surviving was not the same as living. Maybe staying took more courage than fleeing. Final threat. But peace rarely lasts long. Far beyond their borders. Inside dark Varkesh space. A larger war council gathered. The fleet commander knelt before a massive shadowed figure. You retreated, the shadow growled. There were hidden fleets. There were ghosts, the shadow interrupted. The room trembled. A human tricked you. Silence. Then the shadow spoke again. Prepare the Dominion's true armada. Back on Celestara, the stars shone calmly. Unaware. Or perhaps simply waiting. Ending. Lyran leaned against the balcony rail. You know, he said casually, I used to think my life goal was avoiding responsibility. Averai glanced at him. And now? Now I think my goal might be surviving it. She laughed softly. The palace lights shimmered gently around them. He had been a smuggler. A runner. A joke maker hiding from consequences. Now, he was an ally of an empire. A partner to a princess. And possibly the reason the next war would be very creative. Above them, constellations shifted slowly. The universe was still dangerous. Still uncertain. But Lyran no longer felt small inside it. For the first time. He was not running from trouble. Trouble might soon be running from him. And somewhere in deep space. A Dominion prepared for revenge. But this time. They would not face a frightened smuggler. They would face a human who had learned to stand still.